just share my screen. Okay, so I hope you can all sort of see that. Yes, so the title of, so today is not going to be a Bible study as such. It's just going to be one where, as usual, I just pose questions and it is for you to answer yourself. So, like uh, Kevin was just saying, what are you really struggling with? There may be things you know, there may be things you don't know. So, and I believe this group knows a lot. We know a lot of the word, but how are we applying that? Because that always ends up being the struggle. We know so much, we say so much, what do we end up doing? So from trance to truth, you get the drift once we go why the title is this way. Now, if I were to ask, or if anybody was to ask me, how was the last year? Oh, how was 2020? Give me a brief account of what you've been doing in 2020. Do you really have an answer? Because I ask myself and I'm like, nothing significant. Just it just went by. It just time just passed, sort of thing. So I don't know what your answers are. So, um, but just think through. Is there anything where you can actually say that, yeah, nothing happened, so what happened within? That's my question, to you. So in the last 7.5 months, ever since the first lockdown, we've pretty much been indoors and all of that. Okay, so I have a newborn niece who's almost a month old, and all she does is drink milk, poop, sleep, cry, and repeat. That's all she does all day long. So that's what we have at home now, and that's pretty much what she does. And somehow the new normal may feel that way to many of us. It's like a weird routine. So either we're really really busy, or we don't have anything to do. Either there's too much work or there's too much time. So either you may call it it's a new routine where you don't do much, or it's a vicious cycle where you really don't do anything, but the day just passes by. So is that what your days are like, is my question. um, Sometimes we do things to please ourselves, just to convince ourselves. Do you like do one chapter of reading or attend one Zoom Bible study and be like, okay, my time with God today is over, Appa. Okay, I've completed? Is that what your day is like? I don't know how many of you dig the new song by Jordan in Eat, Sleep, Binge, Repeat. Eat, Sleep, Binge. That's pretty much what they're saying, what we've been doing during the lockdown. And each of us have to see for ourselves if that's true for us. And I don't literally mean eat, sleep, binge, repeat, but yeah, in some way, literally also. So think through and see, okay, is that pretty much what I've been doing, or what was my life like before? Or am I just stuck in this new lifestyle sort of thing? But this whole thing, no, eat, sleep, binge, repeat, that's all we've been hearing for so many months now, pretty much. Is there anything familiar like this in the Bible? Can anyone tell me this sort of pattern anywhere in the Bible? Somewhere familiar in the Bible? To ask questions. Anybody? Okay, I will tell you because I referred. Okay, so in the days of Noah, if you look at Luke 17:26 and 27, just as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the days of Son of Man. They were eating and drinking and marrying and given and being given in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. Okay, Lot, likewise, just as it was in the days of Lot, they were eating and drinking and buying and selling and planting and building. Now, was there anything wrong with that? Probably not. When you look at it independently, it's like, okay, so what's wrong with that? So my question is, in our daily routine of what we've reduced it to, because we're not forced to do anything, in what we've reduced it to, have we lost the purpose? have we lost our purpose? Because you said, go to church, or I don't have an opportunity to, I don't need to also, but you still choose to. Or have, either some of us may be stuck, lazy, lethargic, laid back lifestyle. And I believe it's become a lifestyle, not so much of a routine. Because once it's a routine, then slowly you can continue it. It probably becomes a lifestyle. Or you're too busy for anything. How have you adapted yourself to this changing times? That's my question. So if you thought, no, I'm good at balancing stuff, yeah, I mean, work and home and church and all that, I can balance it quite decently. Well, then answer yourself now. Or are you just okay with what goes on now? So in this world that we're going through, are you just like things, or do you feel like, okay, I need to change, I need to make changes purpose? I'm not talking about the large, okay, God has a purpose for me in my life, but your daily purpose of living, have you lost that? uh, that's actually my question. Do you think your relationship with God has in some way um, been affected? uh, uh, that's a question that I have for you. Because at least earlier, going to church and Bible study was like a normal thing. Sunday you go there. Now it's like you can choose to watch if you want, you can choose to participate if you want, if you don't want to, you won't. So what do you do in that secret space? What do you do when you have the choice? And somewhere, if we've lost our daily purpose of living, um, look at what Jesus did. Jesus was set on his purpose. If you look at Luke 9:51, as the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. He wasn't like, okay, okay, let me do some miracles and just, chill here because I can do this. But if you look in another version, it says he was determined to go. So he was very, very clear about his purpose, and all his actions were based on that. We've all in some way heard of purpose driven life. My question is, are we living lives that are purpose deprived? um, Sometimes we choose to just sort of just get used to one, okay, I'm in one weird limbo sort of thing. So like I said, I'm not going to take a Bible study. We can do a message that really feels good, where everybody can just sit and listen and be like, okay, that was good to hear, there's my dosage for the day sort of thing. Or you can actually take the effort to think through introspect, and all of that. um, yeah, I'll only be putting questions out there, but it, I can share these points if you want, but you'll have to think for yourself in connection with your own life. So why do you think it's important? Why should I end up doing this? Because the Bible says so. In different ways, the Bible says, examine your ways, test your ways, examine yourselves, test yourselves, search me, God, see. You're asking God to look into your heart. And if you and then it says, commune with my own heart, and allow my spirit to make diligent search. So these are not automatic things where it just happens on its own, and then you realize on your own, and then you just move on your own. Not really. It is where you have to sit, you have to examine yourself, because you're the only one who knows yourself, right? Or sometimes we can just get very numb, very comfortably numb. uh, that's the actual word. I don't know how many of you know this song by Casting Crowns. It's called Slow Fade. It's a brilliant song because it's the lyrics are really good. It says, um, it's a slow fade when you give yourself away. It's a slow fade when black and white has turned to gray, when thoughts invade and choices are made. There's a price to be paid. So it's a slow fade. If you think, no, I'm not doing, I'm not that bad, where you sort of stepping off sort of thing. um, so that's worth actually listening to. So I'm just basically, it's gonna have to do with you looking at the mirror. Okay, not really the actual mirror. Maybe if some of you like to do that exercise, no harm. But actually look at the mirror and say, okay, what do I see? Or God, what do you see? Or what am I really doing? But the actual mirror we need to look at is God's word. That's the only mirror that when you see, in light of God's word, will you be able to see and examine and search your heart. That's the only test. So all these questions, to answer for yourselves, there are a million questions you can ask yourself. So the question is, can you actually take that effort? Because follow up is where, we all go for camps. Once camp is over, we're all like, okay, fine, yeah, I learned something, maybe there are changes. But follow up is so difficult, for the same reason. So I hope this just won't be one, few minutes we discuss something and be like, okay, and then move on. I really hope each of us can sit and spend time thinking about different areas in our lives. So I'm just taking on small area, just very, very small area. So let's say three circles. Say the outer circle I've chosen is friends. This is only a little part. Okay, so friends. So that will be your workplace, church, your get-togethers, your youth meetings, all of that. I'm, I guess, and I hope the little inner circle is family for you. That is, at home with your siblings, your relationship, your cousins, and all of that. I mean, your relatives. And of course, the circle in the center is yourself, which is just you. Okay, so we'll go 3, 2, 1. All right, from outer to inner we go. So if we look at friends, how have you been, especially during this time? How have you been dealing with your friends, with your friendships, with people people you're friendly with, your social socializing, online time, whatever you want to call that? How have you been dealing with that, or how has that area been? So I truly believe friendship is very, very precious, because for me, my best friends have come from this youth, and it has literally been given by God, and I am sure about that, and it lasts. So, my question is, during this pandemic, so many people have gone through so much. We all have in different ways. A few examples can be people who've either lost a loved one, or who have somebody who's dealing with health issues, loneliness, separation, um, loss of job, financial issues, depression. There's just so much. So how have you been there for people? Have you just found it awkward, or have you actually checked up, or actually sort of chosen to be there in your own way? One thing we've discussed about so much is, in our youth itself, there are invisible people, as in they're there, but sometimes we pretend we can't see them. Sometimes we choose to look through them. They're friends, but you don't know them too well, and you don't take the effort to know them too well. Do you check on them? Do you, just send a message, or anything? Do you actually take the effort to do that? Because all that we discuss about how God's love is, we want to show people God's love. Well, maybe, if it doesn't translate here, I don't know where else it will really translate. Because truly talking to a friend and listening to, being encouraged or being comforted by a friend, there's nothing like it. And I'll tell you that there's really nothing like it. um, for me, at least in the past 2 years, when somebody, especially social will just send a message saying, "What's up? Are you okay? How are you doing?" And that's it. It sort of makes my day, because you don't really understand the the impact the little words have to somebody. Okay, have you interceded not just for people to come to know Christ, but have you interceded for your friends? There are so many needs. The need is so high, and I'm sure you all know that. And only a friend can plead with God for the other one. Um, and with your good friends, if you've had issues with each other, have you resolved it? Have you taken the initiative to resolve, or find restitution, or be like, no, no, I just disagree, that's it, I don't want to talk to him anymore, I don't want to talk to her anymore? Does it just stop there, or do you actually seek restitution? Because the friendships that you make here, they last a very, very long time. For me, it has lasted for, I don't know, 20 years now. So, and going. So, trust me, it's worth it. Um, don't hesitate to apologize. If you feel you need to apologize, please apologize. It kind of breaks your pride. It's good. It's a good Christian exercise if you need to apologize, and to actually listen and try and understand. Have you been a reliable and faithful friend? So are you too busy focusing on how to be a good Christian, that you've forgotten that part of being a good Christian is to be a faithful and reliable friend? I think 2 weeks back you discussed about friendship during Bible study itself, right? um, and be persistent with friendship, and ask yourself these questions. So these are just a few points I'm throwing out there for you to look at your own lives as your friends, or how your friends have been, and to not just clear the air between people, but these are godly initiatives that you take. Okay, so that's quickly done about friends. Now we go to the next inner circle, which is at home, family. Now, this is going to be not so pleasant area, because I think this is one area that we all struggle with, especially once we come to know Christ. I think we all struggle with this. So, being a Christian at home, that is at home in my space where I'm the king or I'm the queen, how you are there and how you are outside, or just outside of that home atmosphere, how you are is definitely worth evaluating. And I'll tell you why. Because at home there's no mask. Everybody knows your true face at home, right? And you don't feel the need to wear a mask at home also, and you don't, pretty much. So in your routine and all of that, do you actually look around and be like, okay, now I have more time at hand, maybe I can help, or should I? Yeah, it's okay, I'll just stick to what I want to do. Is that what you end up doing? Because I'm not saying, oh, you have to help only then you're a good Christian. That's not my point. My point is, by helping, what you communicate, by participating at home, what you communicate as a Christian is very, very, very important. And when I became a Christian initially, at home I was like, no, Bible study most important thing, quiet time most important thing, now everything else comes after that. So I just wouldn't care. I can lock myself up in, I mean, okay, not lock, just sit in my room for 2 3 hours, or and just do Bible study. I'm doing correctly Bible study only I'm doing, but I can just sit and do that and just be oblivious to any need in the house. And that's not very Christian, because that's really not showing who you are as a. That's really not showing what a Christian is like. It's showing the opposite. So do you even ask, do you even, like, offer to help? How do you spend time, or how do you help at home? Okay. When you talk to your parents or your family members, are you generally generally little sarcastic or judgmental. Yeah, they don't know. I am only the believer in my house. They are not believers. They are not believers. Oh, you people don't know anything. Do you have a sort of judgmental attitude when you speak to them, or do you, convince yourself saying, I've grown up like that only, I'm used to that, or that's how we talk? It doesn't mean it's okay. That's your justification. But as a Christian now, do you want to change? As a Christian now, do you um, want to renew that, right? Somehow for all of us it's so easy to step outside our homes and love and choose to love and want to love anybody else except those within our homes. I don't know, have you thought of that? Because that always hits me hard. Always hits me hard. My parents say, "Avlu velliya Bible study okay, pallila tamasam." പക്ഷേ വീട്ടിൽ വന്ന and that's the worst thing to hear, because if I'm not able to witness Christ to my family, then what am I doing? Right? Why go out and preach where in the house, nothing of me displays Christ. Um, right? And you feel the same way with your with your siblings, especially. Love thy neighbor, not thy sibling. Hey, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, we're like that only. Or it's just awkward to talk, or it's just awkward to we only talk about certain things, we don't talk about other stuff. See, at the end of the day, if you, especially if you're the only believer in your home, um, there's a reason why you're the only one there. There's a reason why God gives you space and gives you people and says, now display me to them, show me to them, let them see me. So ask yourself, is that what you're doing? So again, at home, are you selfish in any way? Um, it's a good question. The verse that says do nothing out of selfish ambition is not just at church, it's not just when you go to mission field, it's not just at your workplace, it is at your home also. It is at very much at home. It begins at home itself. I mean, see, I'm not picking on the small things, or I'm just throwing some examples for you to think through to that micro level, if you want to, if you can, and it'll be great if you do. Like, let's say you're gonna have lunch or something. You go there, and maybe all of you eat at different times. You go there, what's for lunch? I eat, I go. Do you casually, chumma, just for an courtesy, chumma, do you ask, has everybody eaten? Is there enough? Um, have you? That's a question, because in most homes that doesn't happen. Is there enough for everybody, or no, I'll just take whatever's left back for people? Do you even know what happened? So I'm saying, if you can go down to that level, instead of just saying no selfish ambition, do nothing out of selfish ambition. These are things that are so um, part of us that we don't even feel it as odd. And I'm not saying it should be odd, it's your choice. I'm just throwing some examples, and uh, you can pick from that. Do you speak very respectfully at church, but not to your parents? That's one thing. Because people in church, say for example, they'll even come up to you and say, "Oh, your daughter, yeah, you're so nice, so responsible. But she does not say no, only everything she took and she did. Oh, I thought you must be lucky to have a daughter like this." In my parents' head, they'll be like, really? You know, that's happened. That's why I'm telling you also. But really, home is the hardest testing ground for Christians. Absolutely, you know the hardest. Like, it really is the hardest, because if we cannot prove it to them, we cannot prove our Christianity at home, and we may not be able to really prove it anywhere else, without, to our parents, siblings, maids, drivers, cousins, people in that first circle, people who see you as you sort of are. You may be fooling people in the youth, you may be fooling people at church with your eagerness, to want to evangelize, to understand doctrine, to study this, to study that. But in your house, in your own home, in those who know you the best, in their eyes, do you end up being looking like a religious hypocrite? That's my question. Because that's a hard one. Because if you end up looking like a religious hypocrite, then why are you working so hard outside, right? Because um um yeah, if you don't see the need to share at home, or to witness Christ at home, are you being exclusive? Like, hey, no. Yeah, these things I can't even discuss at home because nobody's a believer. I have my believer friends. I only talk to them. We have the same wavelength. Here, nobody understands. I don't care. No, what effort have you done? I'm not saying things will change in a day. They take years, and it's with hope that I'm saying I can guarantee they will be changed. I mean, there will be change. Say for example, um, if anybody says, "Why don't you initiate prayer?" and you're like, "Yeah, okay, my family, no, they pray in like one routine only. It's like one by heart prayer. They don't even mean it. For them, and all daily bread only, they can just read and go. They don't really mean what they're saying." Um, um, that's all. Like, it's like, do you even come across like, what's the point of having family prayer? But do you really initiate? I know a good friend of mine who for years has tried to initiate family prayer, and now her parents have started praying on their own, and every day they read a chapter and they try to understand the chapter. If I tell you from what they were to where they are now, you won't believe it. It's like that. So small actions that you do make a difference. On judgment day, suppose if on judgment day God calls your family as witnesses, and say, now you can witness to your sincerity and your commitment as a Christian, and how you have served Jesus. Where do you think they'll rate you? Discounting your uh, achievements, or discounting how you are outside of home, just within your house, how you have served, how you have displayed Christ or served Christ within the home, how do you think your family will rate you? That's a question worth asking yourself. Because uh, my point is, if you pray for your family, pray, whether all your family members are believers or not, pray. It's so important. Because on that last day, don't you want to be able to say, me and my household have been saved? Isn't that something you want to proclaim on that day? Yeah, yeah, display humility. Very, very difficult in our home to do this, because you'll be like, okay, they have no value for a sorry. Why should I be humble? They'll just trample over me and all of that. If you don't display it here, they will not think. Now, with your siblings, sort things out with your siblings. Take the effort, take help from people if you want. There's nothing to be ashamed of in doing that. Say, hey, you know what, I want to sort things out, but this is how things are. What can I do? Or this is what I'm going to do. Does this make sense? Will this help? You can say all of that. Now, if you hesitate to do any of this, if you hesitate to take any effort at home to display Christ, you're only deceiving yourself. That is one. And not only that, all those around you will think that God is a waste of time, because that's how you turned out. um, since they don't see any fruit, and you'll probably end up looking like a hypocrite in the eyes of your family. So it's a serious spiritual condition, and we prefer to not talk about this. We prefer to not discuss it or think about it, um, because it's awkward, right? um, so not just by the things you, it's so important to walk in the spirit just because of this, right? To display mercy, to display patience, to display um, I don't know, everything, grace, just to show this at home. I'm find your balance. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying no, suddenly just change and be like, whatever you say to me, I will not say anything back. I'm going to control myself. I'm not saying enjoy your relationships. That's what I'm saying. And only you will be able to find where you can, make changes that way. Um, yeah, don't just say things. Don't be, I'm going for Bible study here, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm sharing the sermon today, I'm doing all of this, and they'll be like, okay, she's doing all this, why for us it's not like that? Why don't we see that? So, you know our methods will be different. Of course, even after this, our methods are going to be different if you have to sort things out with your siblings or with your family. But it's worth it. It's worth it, because I'm telling you, on that last day, to be able to say me and my family are saved is a huge blessing. If every day I pray for something, it's for that. Every single day, my prayer is, in spite, I mean, no matter, let anything happen, but let this happen. That's how, that's uh, yeah, that's like my first and most earnest prayer. And home is a testing ground. Home is an absolute testing ground, and that's a place for real potential spiritual growth. That's where you will actually grow. Okay, so quickly we finished home. Now we will just come to talk about ourselves, and even ourselves is just going to be a few small areas. See, I'm not focusing on a lot of scripture, because you all know all of these things. It will be repetitive if I say it. My point is, you know all this. How are you applying it? Oh, what if you know? So what? Now what? That's my question to you. So when you look at yourself, do you um, the question I will ask you is, how have you been just within uh, during this entire time? Your habits, your thoughts, your what you watch, what you talk about, your faith. When we're in this monotonous routine, no, and we don't have anything to what's that distract us also, like earlier, where we were not very productive or not very purposeful. Things that we were very sensitive to earlier, maybe test and see whether your sensitivity is sort of worn off. So we'll just get to that. You may see sin creeping in small ways. Like I said, slow fade. It's very, very small, very, very small, small ways, but it's already started creeping in. And don't think once this pandemic is over and okay, my uh, college and work routine comes back, everything is going to be fine. It's not. It's a state of your heart that we're talking about, right? um yeah, so are you still be able to be sensitive to things? If you look at James 1:14, it says temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. The temptation to the impulse to sin is within us. It's already within us. So I can't attribute my sin to some, oh, one sin controlling demon is there. No, it's my desire. It's ultimately it's my desire. And if you look at the next verse, it talks about, then when lust has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. And sin is not always, I mean, temptation to sin can be masked. It need not be very obvious. It's not going to be like you're a worldly person. It's not like that. Like, I'll give you a few examples. Mm, Say something as normal, and as normal like a hug can lead to lust. Something like affordability. Now, where's the problem with affordability? Something like that can slowly and very slowly lead to worldliness, right? So these are things you can think of yourself participating in so many Bible studies or so many things. Just your participation alone may lead to self-righteousness. So it can come masked. That's what I'm saying. um, you all know what symbol this is. Okay, somebody knows what symbol this is. Come on, somebody say.
Proportional.
What?
Proportional to.
Yes, correct. So, in all of this, we can see that the strength of any temptation that you face, the strength of any temptation is directly proportional to the passion for Jesus in your life. Okay, it's directly proportional to that. So, this is one of my favorite books. It's called Respectables, and one of the only few books I have read properly. Um, the PDF is also available online. It's worth reading, absolutely. The things I've listed on the right are some of the chapters in this book. So when you search your hearts in these areas. In see your daily, what you do on a daily basis, only you know for yourself. So based on that, test all of these things. Where do you stand in all of this, or how are you dealing with all of this? um, if you look at anger, irritation, selfishness, discontentment, pride. If anybody needs notes on pride, I received an email recently with 45 questions on are you proud, sort of thing, and it's very detailed. So I can send that to you if anybody wants. Impatience, jealousy, sins of the tongue, lack of self control. So many things like that. Notice patterns in yourself, saying, okay, when this happened, I reacted that way. So these are the small things within yourself. When you notice, that will help you work on it. And unless you have a heart where you like, okay, I want to change, or no, it's okay, I'm just going to chill in what I'm already doing, it may not help. These areas is one thing. And see, small things like your giving. Earlier, say last year, maybe your giving pattern was different. uh, um, when you came to church, you were giving offertory, uh, especially for those who are employed, I mean. um, you were giving offertory. Now for the past 8 months, you're not. So have you actually been like, okay, you know what, I have money that I have not I have money that I can set aside. Have you helped? Have you given to people who are actually in need? I'm not saying, okay, I'm going to do good work so that, it's not because of that, but because people are in need. Have you given? Have you thought of it? Or how have you dealt with your area of money in general, or your time with God? See, like I said, if I don't attend the initially, of course, we were all very eager to attend the service in our church or anywhere else. But now, it's there on YouTube. So whether you wake up at 7:30 or wake up at 11:30, you can still watch the service. And when you watch the service, you can forward to the bits that you want to forward. And I'm guessing we all do that. So, because now it is in your hands. Like at least earlier when you were coming to church, okay, it's 2 hours of service, 1 hour of Bible, so 3 hours. Now that's not really there, right? The 3 hours where you spend in some form under a Christian banner is not there. So how do you uh, adapt? How have you adapted from that now? Or does it mean that you sort of convinced yourself, so that was your time with God? I'm not saying keep an account for, oh, 3 hours I used to spend at church, now again 3 hours I must do Bible study. I'm not saying that, but I'm sure you all understand what I mean. So think. That's what I'm saying. Ask yourself, so what is it that you talk about? um, I'm sure in the last 8 months, a lot of gossip has happened generally. And when Christians talk to each other, that is also called gossip only. It's not called anything else. It's not respectable in any way. What you watch. Hmm. Okay. Now, at some phase during the pandemic, uh, maybe you began binging on Netflix. And I'm not saying you should not, that's not my point, but it's your choice on how far. And if that's all, what you see with your eye is so important. And what you think, your thought life. um, have you been judging people, or what are the kind of thoughts that you've had? That's my question, because these things are so important. What we see, what we hear, what we say, huge area. And we'll finish with a few more points on this. This is a big area, because sexual sin, especially when we have time, when we don't have people to check on us, is one we fall for, number one. Two, one we find it harder to battle with. If you want to battle, if you want to fight it, it's a harder point to fight it. And I'm not getting into why and what all of this is all about, because you all know already. You all know why and why not and all of that. Okay, so this is just from a passage that I've taken from Numbers 25 1 to 9. You can read it later if you'd like. Sexual sin is a powerful temptation. It's not like a, okay, it's just another sin. It's a very powerful sin. It's the giant that slew David. Okay, that this sexual sin, okay, um, uh, that Bathsheba incident was just evident enough. Powerful Samson became powerless. Now, this is just showing the gravity of it. It's one key area that Satan uses to destroy marriage, church, and society. And I'm victim of that, witness to that. Okay, same-sex attraction is justified. I'm not getting into what and why and all of that, but you get the drift. Maximum deaths in one day during Exodus, I think 24,000. Um, Jesus's definition of adultery was, even if you look at a woman lustfully, you have committed adultery. Let there be no hint of sexual immorality. No hint. That is not just don't indulge. No hint. And there's a reason, because when there's a small one speck, it doesn't take very long for it to just widen. And if you look at 1 Corinthians 6:18, it says, flee from sexual sin, flee from sexual immorality. The wages of sin is death. Now I want to show you this statistics. um, if you look here, during this lockdown, of course, this was in the beginning of lockdown between March and April. If you look at this, sorry, one second. Yeah, if you look at this blue portion, this is India. Okay, this is the amount of pornography consumption in India alone, the blue part. Okay, 95% of hike in Indian viewership during the lockdown. Okay, everyone is in their own space, either stressed or having a lot of time. Now we're all hoping and that the COVID-19 curve will flatten, but this curve is very important to flatten. And if we are going to be a little laid back about that, it has other consequences. I mean, there are many consequences, but I don't know if any of you have dreams, because it can really mess with your head, and you will get dreams. I will tell you, you will get dreams, and they won't be pleasant, and you won't know how to deal with them. That's a big consequence. And over time, you'll just be insensitive to it. Like, if when you if you spend time watching porn, soon after some time, you see a kissing scene on the screen, it won't matter. It won't be like a big deal to you, and it's very real. It's very real. So the point is not what you tell each other. The point is what you do in your secret space, in where only you are in your room. What you do is very significant. It's significant to yourself in relation with God. It's very significant to God. So I'm actually going to close with one last um, 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 one last slide. Sorry, it's just a few steps to freedom. I'm not saying how to. This is not how to deal with it, but when you deal with it in a certain way, when you take it as so important to deal with, this will help. So this is from, I'm going to share a few points. This is from an email a very good friend of mine wrote to me 4 years back, when she was dealing, and she titled it My Fight with Sexual Sin. And this is the summary of it. And she was giving me reasons why she shared it with me or with anybody else, and why she shared it. Okay. She said, I am enslaved to it in various intensity, each of us. So, test yourself and see how sensitive to you are. Earlier, at some point, watching Friends was a very sensitive thing to do. As in, I was. Some of you may have been sensitive to, okay, watching Friends is not okay. Now, I'm not saying is it okay or is it not. Has your sensitivity dropped? That's my question. Right? Okay, it's just a harmless kiss. I mean, who cares? Is that what it's going to be? Because if it begins there, then it's just going to keep going. Right? Okay, I'm enslaved to it in various intensities. I want to expose every sin in me, giving it no space to breathe. When sometimes when we share with our friends, we share and we expose respectable areas. Okay, sharing about not having passion for God, sharing about not being able to do something or going through a really tough time, and all of that is somehow comes under the banner of a respectable thing to struggle with. But this is a very shameful thing to struggle with. Okay, so I want to expose every sin in me. I want to expose pretension in me. Pretension is huge, huge. I come across as a holy and perfect person, but I want to strip and burn my pride and my image. So these are her words. They're not really mine. These are her words, and it's with this fire that she actually wrote, and it's very evident in the words. So expose every pretension in me. I want to destroy my desire to be accepted my man and to fear God. um, I know a friend of mine who was sharing somewhere that she was staying with her friends. She had roommates, and they used to mock her because she wasn't having physical relationships with guys. I'm not making anything up, but this is real. And yeah, this is this is real. Okay, so the kind of pressure that people put on you may also lead you to it. I want to treat this with severity and the extent of my rebellion and contempt to God. It's not just simply rules. It's not just yes or no. It's not just, okay, is it okay to watch it? Is it not okay to watch it? If it's okay, I'm going to watch it. If it's not okay, maybe I won't watch it. It's not that. Treating this area with severity. It's severe. It's very, very severe. And it shows the extent of your rebellion against God. Um, I want to address the root cause of the struggle, to know that I'm loved, right? Um, uh, in the last, okay, especially in the last 2 years, okay, for me, leave before that, because if what I'm going to say, you all may laugh saying only for 2 years, or you may say, but anyway, especially in the last 2 years, I realized that I'm prone to emotional eating. See, otherwise also I'm prone, but especially in the last 2 years, I'm a lot more prone, because if I feel upset, I eat. If I feel happy, I eat. And last 2 years have been more upsetting than happy. I eat a lot more. Just something to eat. It's not the eating as such. It's that there's a need. There's some need that's there. So that's what she's saying. The root cause of the struggle is to know that I'm loved. right? To understand that the consequence of allowing it to be a corner in my life is worse than any consequence of confessing it. So you'd rather, so say for example, she shared it with me and I'm like, ew, oh my gosh, okay, you struggle with that, okay, I'm just gonna let you deal with it, and then sort of cut off. I mean, I'm not that I'm any of us would do that, but by doing that, what has come out is, uh, I mean, let's say I had cut off. She'd rather have that than letting that sin be there somewhere in her life. That's what she's saying. I'm sure you understood. To admit that I need help, not to simply check on me, but to pray and constantly remind me what's at stake. To admit that we need help is difficult, because I think it kind of plays with our pride. Like, oh, I have to say that I need help. Oh, no, no, I can manage on my own. I can manage. I can manage. I know my boundaries. I can manage. Is that what it's like for you? To fight for joy in Him through prayer and not just cutting off from TV shows. So it's not a mere, okay, I'm going to pull the plug, I'm going to cut it off I'm not going to watch this TV show. It's not just that. To fight for joy in Him, because when I'm doing something, there's a reason for behind that. I lived in darkness, or this is my sexuals in my area. My fight with sexual sin is what I've lived in darkness, and the best way to kill it is to bring to light, is to expose it. That's the way, that's the best way to uh, kill it. So I'm actually through. So I would urge you to just answer these questions for yourself. Either you can sit in one trance and just be in one trance saying, ah, okay, let this time pass, when we go back to church then we'll see, and you can choose to be comfortably numb, or you can wake up with a renewed desire to be restored. Like the when you look at the parable of the lost son, the way he got up and went. He wasn't like, okay, anyway they're not going to accept me, anyway I'm doomed, anyway I'm just stuck, I brought ruin to myself. He didn't stay there. He got up and he went. So I would urge you, to mirror yourself and take it to God and say, okay, God, where, in light of you and in light of your word, where am I? What have I been omitting? Have you lost the awe for who God is? When you came to know God, you were in awe of God. And I'm not saying we're not, we still are, but I would urge you to search your heart, because unless you do, unless we all do, we'll just sit and be comfortable in our own areas. When it comes to me, then I'll see, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm through with that, actually. So if there's anything anybody would like to add or share or anything, you can.
Hello.